What does aligned really mean, and how do you know you're there?
Let's break it down today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast. And now your host, Jen O'Brien and Matt Emerson. Hey friends, welcome back to the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast. This is episode 367, and you can discover all the show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Today, we're diving into one of those words that floats around in every personal development circle but rarely gets unpacked, and that word is alignment. So what does it really mean to be aligned? Is it about living with purpose, feeling calm, having everything kind of figured out? Or is it something more personal and maybe more accessible than we think? We're going to talk about all that today. We're going to explore how to recognize alignment, how to spot misalignment, and most importantly, how to return to alignment when life inevitably knocks us off course. This conversation is the perfect bridge for us between our first module of the Clarity series, which we dropped last week, which is called Rooted in the Unknown, and what we have coming up next week on July 18th, our second module, Aligned in the Everyday. So here's the truth, though. Alignment isn't some far-off destination reserved for the gurus. It's a daily experience that's available to all of us. If we're willing to listen in, slow down, and reconnect. So grab your coffee, your journal, or just take a walk with us. Let's get into it. First, let's start off with the big question. What the heck is alignment? Now, for me, alignment is really my values, my actions, and when my energy, all three of those things are in sync. It's when what I believe, what I say, and what I do are all pointing in the same direction. It's when I'm not pushing, I'm not performing or pretending, just showing up in a way that feels grounded and real. So now, I used to think that alignment was some kind of mystical state with, where everything literally aligns. Well, it is kind of like that, but and everything clicks. But more often, really, it's not about the big, huge thing happening. It's the quiet, it's subtle, and it's found in the pause before reacting, or in that moment when you can say no to something that doesn't serve you right. And that is so powerful. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in more depth today, even when it's uncomfortable to do so. So as we've been studying and as we've been building our Clarity course, it's become even clearer that alignment isn't perfection. It's permission to trust yourself, permission to move slower, and permission to stop chasing someone else's version of success and start honoring your own version of that. So you might experience alignment as a feeling of clarity or of peace or even momentum, which is, might be kind of counterintuitive. It's not necessarily peaceful. Momentum can be part of the alignment too. A forward motion that feels effortless, not forced. And it can be felt in your body, like breathing fully in again after you've held your breath for too long, or if you've been swimming, right? And you come up for air. So if you're listening and wondering whether you felt aligned, if you've ever felt aligned, I promise you that you have. It may have been fleeting, or maybe it's just been a while since you've really felt that true alignment, but it's there. And today we want to help you recognize it and reclaim it.
And with that in mind, let's talk about what it really looks like and feels like when you're in alignment. And I want to talk a little bit about it from my perspective of what it means for me, and then maybe share with you what you, just as way of an example, so that you can, get what it means to you. For me, it's all about alignment with the energy, my energy, and in different parts of me. So I see that we all have this human being that's walking around right here on the earth, living life, right? But there's the other part of us, whatever you want to call that spiritual side, that other piece of you, that higher self. Alignment to me is when they are those two parts of me. One could also say there's three parts: mind, body, and spirit, right? Mm-hmm. When all three of those are lined up, and I feel like I'm in the zone. There is this space where I can clearly know when I'm not aligned, because if I'm just focused on the day-to-day, then I don't feel as energized. I don't feel as good, right? But when I'm going about being present and I'm in aligned action with what it is I'm doing, everything is effortless.
Right.
That's the best way for me to describe it. I'm energized. Decisions are easier. I have more clarity. I feel better. I feel lighter, right? I don't need all this external validation. I just know everything is okay. And how it's a sense of flow. It really is about everything is flowing. Challenges arise. No worries. It just happened this morning. No worries. We've got a problem with an escrow. Look, we're going to figure it out. What are we going to do? Like immediately get unaligned and get retracted and get into the mode of this? No, you can do it all. You can handle anything that comes up if you just keep your energy and your frequency up, right? So it's not always easy. It's about just having this feeling right. When I'm aligned, I laugh more, I breathe easier, I respond, not react. It allows me to pause. You just mentioned it. Pause, not overreact. Breathe. Breath work is so powerful. We've been doing so much about that. But when you have and things are going to point at you all day long.
Mm-hmm.
From driving in the car and somebody cutting you off, one of my favorites, which I'm getting so better at, because that is always my sign. Oh, you think you're aligned? All right, we're going to give you your test, Jan. We're going to have crazy people cut you off in traffic and see if you can stay aligned, or are you going to fall right back into the, I won't say what I might say. All right. I definitely sleep better. Everything is more meaningful. So the reflection for you is, what are your signs when you know that you're in alignment? There's got to be little indicators. How do you know that you're in the zone? That's why I took a little bit of time to talk about it. What about for you, Matt? How do you know that you are aligned?
Yeah, well, as you were talking about that, it really kind of just dawned on me. When I feel happy, it's that whole sense of happiness that you cannot feel unless you are really, more aligned in what's going on. When you talked about laughing, I think that's really important too. When you have that good laugh, sometimes you think to yourself, "Gosh, I can't think of the last time I laughed like that." Those like kind of things. Crying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we used to call it like the church laughter, like where you're laughing so hard that you're trying to be quiet and not be. You know what I mean? It's just awesome. So those kind of things, I think I know. When I'm really aligned, and what you just said too. It's that whole thing about things just being easier to make decisions, easier to feel like the decisions you're making are the right decisions. You know what I mean? All of those kind of things, just kind of show. And when you start getting that feeling of happiness, for me anyway, happiness is when I kind of can step back for a second and say, okay, what's happening right now? What am I doing right now to create this feeling? Because it's all about you. You are the master of your own destiny, for crying out loud, and you do make a lot of it. So
we all have words on that. So it's peace. It might be happy, joy. It could be bliss. And that's what you're about to talk about. Sometimes it can help you figure out what it is when you figure out what it's not.
So let's flip that there. Let's talk about misalignment. It's really just as important to recognize, and maybe even more important for you to realize whenever you've kind of gotten off track. So here's how I know when I'm off track. I feel drained at the end of the day. I feel like I've been swimming upstream, and it's like, and not really accomplishing and not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. I say yes to things I don't really want to do. That is huge. It's okay to say no, but if you find yourself just being the yes, it piles on, right? And it makes it harder for you to complete that swim and get that going. If I'm short-tempered, if I get impatient, easily irritated, which I think is probably one of my biggest and most identifiable times when I know it's like, oh, something's wrong here. I got to go back and look at that. And even the things I usually start to, enjoy, they start feeling like it's a chore to do this. And that's a huge one as well. Sometimes it's not dramatic, though. It can be just quiet burnout creeping in, a dull ache in the background of your day, or that familiar pull that you get to distract, to scroll, and just to kind of check out from what you're doing. And I think all of those things, if you're listening and you've heard any of that, you've got to be able to relate to all of it probably, but at least one or two of those things, because it happens all the time. And it's so easy for you to get distracted and pulled. And I've come to learn that misalignment really is never random. It's always revealing something. Something has shifted and something is changed. And it's time to go back and kind of, reevaluate. Maybe your boundaries have slipped a little bit. Maybe you're chasing something that doesn't truly align with who you are, which is huge. But whatever it is, it's not personal failure. It's really a message for you. It's a little nudge. And I think the greatest shift is when we stop judging that misalignment and we can actually start getting curious about it, working on it, giving it some thought, and then getting back out of that again, or learning how to get back out of that. And we're going to talk about that.
That's awesome. So we've just talked about how we're sharing how we know we feel aligned, and it's really a feeling. It really is about how you feel. And then how quickly, that's what we're going to talk about now. So I agree. I have found myself in the last, being super impatient. Like in the last 3 or 4 days, there were a couple times I'm like, why am I being so impatient? What is off here? That's the point. It's about how quickly you recognize it and make a shift. So let's talk about how you can return to alignment once you realize, it's creeping in.
Yeah.
I'm getting that scope creep.
Yeah, exactly.
Something's messing with my aura, my vibe, my energy is off. And you know what we're talking about here if you're listening, right? So for me, it starts with I just mentioned a little bit ago, catching it and then literally making myself stop and just pause and don't overreact and breathe. I'm telling you, it's just breathing. Simple breath work will bring you back to the moment every single time and get you in alignment with your energy where it is and bring it down if you need to, or get reconnected. So it can just be simple. You don't have to go. I'm not talking about if you're out in the world somewhere, you stop and do some Zen meditation.
Right.
I'm talking about controlled breathing, just like breathing in and just focusing on your breath. This is how you do it. You can get out of that headspace by focusing on the breath and then releasing. It's just breathe in, hold it, breathe out, maybe a couple seconds more. Do that 3 or 4 times. Boom, man, you move your energy right back. If you're in someplace else, maybe you need to, depends on the situation, right? So if it's something happening in your office space or something, get up, shift your energy, get outside, get in nature, go touch a tree, okay? Go take your shoes off and just ground yourself into the grass if you can. Just do something that is going to help you change that perspective, right? So it can be anything, a little micro movement, just getting up and stretching, right? It could be just whatever it's going to take, right? So we talk about this all the time. We have got umpteen tons of videos out there. A lot of Matt videos are all about simple things that you can do that just basically interrupts the pattern and shifts you, and it gets you back into the space. And when you practice this, it's so amazing when you start feeling better again. You start getting into the space and then you stay in that space. Now it's up to you. You can stay in that other space where you're impatient and aggravated and everything is negative. I don't like that space anymore. But I listen, we're human. We're not living in a blissful state all day long. I think we'd have to be monks somewhere, sitting somewhere without all the interference to even be close to that kind of Zen, right? And that's not realistic unless that's who you are.
Right.
And if that's who you are, you're probably not listening to us, right? So it's not about overhauling your life. This is just about reconnecting to what matters. It's just taking charge. It's being in the moment. And that's why we have this clarity series. We're so excited about this. This clarity series is really for anyone. Even if you're a practiced meditator, maybe you are afraid of meditation or you're like, I could never do that. This is not even about meditation. This is just about simple, small, 5-minute a day activities around breathing and just getting you to help have some guidance around what to do. That's always what my issue was. It's like, okay, I'm going to take some time to do this. What do I do? So having some help, and that's where Matt and I are coming in with some guided activities for you to do, some simple breath work. And we're literally talking about 10 or 15 minutes a day, right, Matt? That's it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And so we've got the first module, and we're talking about alignment. What's going to drop in module 2 is alignment in the everyday, is some things to do in the morning, simple little midday check-ins, and some evening things to help you so that you just take these little bitty steps, and then you all of a sudden you find the groove of how you can take control of your life, right?
That's awesome.
So,
awesome.
So if today's episode is stirring something in you, this whole idea of alignment, because maybe you're feeling like, yeah, I want that feeling, I want that alignment, but I'm not getting it, or I only find it little moments of it, right? Maybe you're in alignment, maybe you're not. Either way, it's just about recognizing and making a decision to start doing something about it. I got just something popped into my head about how powerful it is to just make a decision. So my nephew is my roommate, my 30-year-old nephew. And I said to him the other day, because he just made a decision to start taking care of himself more. He's working out. He went and got the bike that I've had forever that hasn't been ridden. And he went for a ride. He takes walks. He went and got some workout gear.
Wow.
And I just said, Dustin, I'm so proud of you. What has gotten into you? He goes, I just decided I was getting too fat and I wanted to change it.
Well,
and he has the words he said to me, but he's been doing it for a few weeks, but he's been just consistently doing it. And he just made a decision, and it's already changed so much for him, not just physically, his mindset and everything around him has completely changed because he made a decision to do something to take care of himself. That's all we're talking.
That is really cool, actually. And remember, alignment isn't a finish line. It's a feeling you can come home to. And like any home, it takes care, attention, and revisiting. That's so important that you don't just find it and it's there. So take some time this week to notice, what feels aligned and what doesn't feel aligned in your world, and what's one step you can take to realign, even if it's just a breath. And we've been talking about breath quite a bit.
Yeah, man. These key things we talk about. Alignment is the focus today. Awareness is all about awareness, and that's where our Clarity series is going to help you. And the powerful thing about the Clarity series, guys, is, let's see, what's the cost, Matt?
$22 if you're a founding member. So get in there
right now, even before we launch. Oh, because this is coming out before we launch.
Yeah, but module 2 comes out next week, and then when module 2 comes out, the price goes from 22 to 33. So you have a couple more days before we drop module 3.
So get in on the early 22, because 22 is what your cost will be to get all 3 of the modules, and anything we decide to add to it, you'll have that founding price, right? Because we're going to launch this Align in the Everyday. We are super excited to share with you, again, simple things that you can do to find this alignment in everyday life. So some things for the morning again, some midday resets is what we're calling it. And then some evening journal prompts and some evening, wind down kind of activities, which is what I really like. And it can be as simple as that to get you into the space of having alignment be a reality for you every day.
That's awesome. And also, just if you can go over to WBNL, or excuse me, Wandering. Well, you can go either. You can go anywhere and get this.
You can go anywhere we are.
WanderingButNotLost.com and go to our downloads so you can get more information about it. Or you can go over to our show notes over at WBNLPodcast.com. This has been episode 367, so you can get all that over there as well. And as always, we want to thank you for wandering with us, and we will see you next week.
See you next time.